Welcome to 54015, a place to talk about tech news in the federal government. On this week's broadcast, Chris Bach and Jeremy Altman.
Come to decide that the things that I tried were in my life just to get high on.
Good morning.
Wow.
Yes.
Welcome to 54015, episode number lucky 13.
Yes.
What do you think is going to go wrong, Jeremy?
Everything. Everything that could possibly go wrong.
The lights are going to go out. It's going to be just the most calamitous 15 minutes in world history. I'm Chris. Welcome to 54015. This is like I said, this is our 13th episode. If you haven't joined us before, we get together every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern and talk government, technology, innovation for about 15 or so minutes. Just things that we find in the news that we think are interesting and relevant to what we do and hopefully relevant to what you do. We are 540.co. That's the name of our company. You can follow us on Twitter at 540co. You can also like us on Facebook. So please go out there, like us, retweet us. We enjoy that. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is PCBOCK, at PCBach.
And I'm Jeremy Altman, and my Twitter handle is at KillerBGT.
So we're going to get started this morning, but before we start into the official program, I just got back from vacation. So
Never a good thing to come back from vacation.
But what did I miss last week? What is something exciting to have? I'm putting Jeremy on the spot.
We talked about Agile development, what it means to be an Agile team. So that was good stuff. And I'm trying to remember
Recap of the DC API meetup.
Exactly. Recap of the meetup from last week that you also missed.
Cool. Yeah,
So
I hate missing the DC API meetup because it's always a good opportunity to hear about interesting stuff that's going on in technology. It's not 100% federal government focused,
right,
but because it's in DC, there's generally a federal slant to it. So,
right,
and it's the first Tuesday of every month.
Yep.
Downtown at Chief at their headquarters. So if you're an API person, put that on your calendar for next month and try to go because it's definitely a great forum to hear about cool stuff that's going on. Well, we'll go ahead and get into the program. Jeremy, what do you got for us this morning?
Yeah, I'll do a quick security update, just like to make people aware of things that are going on. So hopefully everyone has heard of the numerous Flash vulnerabilities over the past several weeks. One interesting note yesterday, Mozilla actually put out an announcement that they have disabled Flash in all versions of Firefox, which I think is an absolutely amazing, great thing to do because I hate Flash. Hopefully it will just die soon. Yes, HTML5 is much better than Flash in my opinion. I'm not the only one that hates it. The Facebook chief security officer also tweeted out that he's calling for an end of life of Flash, so hopefully Adobe will respond to that appropriately. But anyways, just be aware of the Flash vulnerabilities, do your updates to your plugins. My recommendation is just disable Flash altogether. So
Jeremy, let me play the part of the dummy.
Sure.
As a regular, kind of internet user, what's the potential impact what vulnerabilities does it really?
So these particular ones could actually cause Flash to crash, and it does it in such a way that an attacker could actually take control of your system and do stuff with it. So it's pretty bad. So get rid of Flash.
Okay, because I think, this is the first I've heard of it. I've had Flash on my computers forever. It doesn't, is this something that the general public should be? They should be concerned
with this one. Yes.
You come and tell my wife to disable Flash on
yes.
this thing.
Okay. Yeah. I would say go into your browsers. You can actually just Google this real quick just to learn how to disable Flash. That would be the best option.
Okay.
Just to not worry about it. So.
All right. Thanks for that update.
Yes.
So this morning I want to talk about an article that I read in Government Computer News. Actually came out at the end of last week And we talk a lot about APIs and data, and that's kind of a big tenet of what we do at 540. And I know our founder John O'Brien has talked about, it's not about the app, it's about the API. We've heard that from some of the 18F folks. I read an article about how city governments are starting to use their data and make it available to their citizens. And it's called Citygram. It's citygram.org. And the gist of the article was, this is maybe a step that the federal government could look to take, because the article basically made the point that with this with open data, there's a lot of data out there, but a lot of it is just sitting there. Nobody's really doing anything with it, and it's up to folks like us to go out and harvest that data and do innovative things with it. Well, one of the things that with this Citygram capability, it's sort of a middle layer between that data and the public, and it's not really. It's not really doing any sort of analytics or anything super fancy with the data, but it's exposing it in kind of a layman's way. Okay. So your general public type person can go and look at data on one element is food truck permits, and they can there's cities have this food truck permit data that's sitting out there, but nobody knows it's there, So the idea behind Citygram is to create sort of a presentation layer to make this data visible to kind of John Q. public. And so I went on the site, and there were I think 5 or 6 cities that have signed up: New York, Seattle, I think Lexington, Kentucky. But it was just kind of interesting to poke around. It was the data that was there. If you were really interested in, for example, once for San Francisco was 311 calls, which I don't even know what 311 calls are, but you can get all the data on where all the 311 calls in the city happen. I guess it has something to do with 311. I think it has something to do with signs, like people putting up signs or blocking off streets and things like that. And so they had taken this data and they had overlaid it on a map. So I guess they had done a little bit of value add to it. But then you could click on the spots on your map in your neighborhood and see what all the different postings were, where streets were going to be closed, and things like that. So I think conceptually there's some applicability to the federal government, again, because there's all this data out there.
Lots of federal data.
And some of it, in its raw or near raw form, probably has some value to some people.
Right.
But if you're not an API guru like some of our folks here at 540, you don't know how to get to it. Yeah. And so I just think it's an interesting concept to create that kind of that exposure layer.
Oh, that's one of the things we try to do as well is promote people just to put their data out there. They don't necessarily know what people will do with it, or they can't think of things to do with their data. But if you put that out there, someone way over here could be like, oh, you know what? I could take this piece of data, combine it with this, and actually have something very, very good that we could, put out there.
Yeah. The one thing I read in the article that really kind of caught my interest right away was the whole concept of it is taking, this data and these data sets are out there and turning them into human speech, and immediately made me think of Dre.
Yeah, there you go.
Dre was Dre's and capability, a prototype that we built for the 18F Agile Delivery BPA, where we did something sort of similar. We took the drug reaction information and basically built a translator. So your John Q. public, sees some crazy medical term, they can click on it and flip over and see what it is. So I think the more that we move towards making this data available to the general public in such a way that they can actually consume it and do something with it, I think that's an important aspect to open government and open data, and I think it's important that we not lose that. So my mission here at 540 going forward is going to be to make sure that happens.
Very cool.
So
excellent.
Jeremy, what else do you have for
All
us?
right, next topic for me. So the past few weeks, we've talked a lot about the 18F Agile BPA. Last week, Trey actually did a thing on Agile development practices. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe some issues that could arise when doing Agile development, more specifically conflicts and conflict resolution. So Agile actually promotes collaboration and transparency. So you actually have a team of people coming together to collaborate to solve a problem, to build a product. At the same time, the entire process is very transparent to all members involved. You have daily stand-up meetings to where you constantly get status updates. So it allows for issues to be presented earlier rather than later, which is a great thing. But with both collaboration and transparency, that means conflict can arise. So I found a very interesting article from December of last year. We'll put all of these in the show notes. The author had a very good perspective on what causes conflicts, how to minimize it, and how to deal with conflict. And so I want to go through some of the points that the author made. So what are some of the sources of conflict? Well, the first one could be a vision disagreement. So when you talk to your team and you say, hey, here's what we're going to build, everyone kind of forms their own opinion of what that actually is. So it's very important that we kind of talk about that and kind of come to a shared conclusion of what the vision should be. During sprint planning, you may talk about features and stories. You could have disagreements on what the features or stories should be. One example might be for as simple as a user login. Well, should they use a password? Should it be a PIN number? Maybe biometrics? Everyone can have their own opinion, so that could cause conflicts there. Technical disagreements, so actual implementation, ways to implement certain features. Process disagreements, ways of handling the actual development process. And one that I have actually encountered a lot, and it was very interesting because the author said he had encountered this a lot as well. A lot of times you will actually have meetings or discussions with your customer, and after the meeting you talk together with your team, and everyone heard something different. So interpretation of what the customer actually said is actually a big contributor to conflicts. And then of course personality conflicts as well. So those are some of the things that lead to conflict, some of the sources. So what can we do to try to minimize conflict? The best thing is to try to be proactive, to try to preempt some of the conflicts that could arise. So like I said earlier, the one of the sources of conflict is vision. So it's very important to have a shared vision for the team. It's very important to actually communicate with every member involved and say, yes, you think this, yes, you think this, but here's the actual, combined goal of this product. Another thing that you could do is actually create a team charter to kind of outline, here's the process, here's how it will work, here's, the different things we'll follow, and then just make sure you stick to it. Now, it's not always going to be right the first time you do it, so you may have to make changes to it along the way, but try to stick to a charter that you come up with. Hold regular retrospectives. So get together with a team regularly and say, here's what's going well, here's what's not going well, what can we change? And then the last one was to delegate authority. The author had an actual previous article that he had written where he did an authority experiment, and he goes through 7 or 8 levels of authority. A very interesting article that will also be in the show notes. But delegating authority is another thing that you can do to minimize conflict. So even though you do all this stuff to minimize conflict, you're still going to have conflict. So how can we deal with conflict? The first thing that you want to do is actually understand the root of the conflict. So whenever a conflict arises, try to understand why there's a conflict. it's very important to know why someone feels this way, why someone feels that way, and then maybe you can come to some common ground. Understand the personalities of those that are involved. Why is this person so passionate about this solution? Why is this person passionate about this solution? Try to understand that, because at least then you know where the parties are coming from. Try to brainstorm creative solutions. Negotiate a fair agreement. So you're not always going to be able to compromise. There may be two different solutions that there's no way you can take pieces from this one and pieces from that one. But where possible, try to find common ground and create a fair agreement. And last but not least, invoke authority. The biggest thing with conflict in an Agile team, they need to be resolved quickly. And so you really need some process to where someone can actually make that decision. It's really good for a collaborative team to come together and try to make a decision, but sometimes, especially the more people you get involved, you're not always going to be able to come to a consensus. So you have to have some process in place that says, hey, if we can't reach a decision, we need to do something to actually be able to get past this. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and churn and never be able to get anything accomplished. So now that we've talked about conflicts are not a bad thing. It's actually a sign of a healthy Agile team. If nobody cares enough to actually, be passionate about something, then you're not really involved with a good team there. It's really good to have, some conflict within the team. The problem is you want to make sure that your team has a way to handle the conflicts and resolve conflicts. And the more that they do it, they'll become, more proficient, and over time they'll be able to, do that quickly and move on to new challenges. So that's all I have on conflicts and conflict resolution. Any
We're gonna make a management consultant out of you, yeah.
There we go.
DevOps engineer is,
Yes.
I think, a career of the past for you.
There you go.
No, I think that's spot on. Because I've worked in teams pretty much my whole career, and it's not anything that's unique to Agile development. Kind of the team dynamics and things. And I think one of the things you pointed out is understanding the personalities of the people on the team. And there are a number of tools out there that can help with that. If you're in an organization that kind of does kind of team-based activities on a frequent basis, I think there are kind of personality tests that your team can take, and then the outputs of that kind of tells you it kind of buckets people based on their personalities, but even more importantly on what their needs are.
Gotcha.
So you learn to understand kind of what the motivating factors are. Why is this person always so difficult to deal with? If you kind of peel back the onion a little bit and understand some of what those underlying needs are, then you can get out in front of those needs and improve your relationships with different types of people, because some people are motivated by schedule and getting things done on time. Some people are motivated by quality and making sure that everything is done perfect and exactly right. And some people just want to get something built and pushed out the door. And you need all of those types of people in order to have an effective team.
Exactly.
But those different personalities that leads to conflict. So
Yes. And one quick note on that. So as we went through the 18F Agile BPA process, we did have a little bit of a conflict on our team, where we had two different solutions. So we want to try to have a little bit of fun with this. So in the coming weeks, stay tuned for this. We might have some sort of debate going on, maybe, to talk about some of the implementations that we thought about, and just get viewers' opinions on that. Not trying to create any tension or arguments within the team. The good thing that I'll say this, the good thing that we did have in place. So yes, every party, spoke their mind and said, I prefer this, I prefer this, I prefer this. But at the end of the day, we did have someone that said, you know what, I've heard everything, this is the way we're doing it, we got to move on. And we did, and that's what you got to have. So we did have that person to invoke authority, and that's great. But just trying to have some fun with it. We'll try to set up the two sides of the argument, and if there were any others, we'll throw those in there as well. Not gonna lie, I was one of the members that had a conflict, so disclaimer. So stay tuned in the coming weeks, and we'll try to have some fun.
All right, cool.
All right.
Last thing on the agenda, we'll wrap this up quickly. The SkyNet news update. If this is your first time tuning in to 54015 with me presenting, I like to give everybody an update on the machines taking over the world, and as you move towards the machines becoming self-aware. This one is from something I found on FedBizOps. The Army has a sources sought on the street right now. It's due August 24th, and it's actually really cool, and I think it's something that's very important. They are looking for a firm or organization to help them manage their STEM program, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Basically, this Army organization is the Vehicle and Robotics Alliance STEM grant, is what it's called. They give grants to schools to help encourage kids to get involved in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which is, if you pay any attention, that's a huge thing in our nation. That's becoming a deficit area for us, and it's important that we have our young people learning and getting excited about these topics. So this is something that the Army is doing, because they see obviously their future is tied to and the future robotics and weapons capabilities tied to the ability of our nation to get more kids excited and learning about that. So this RFI is on the street again. They're looking for an organization to help manage their STEM grant program for them. So if you're an organization that does that, go out and check it out. It's on FedBizOps. Again, it came from the Department of the Army, Army Contracting Command in Warren, which is in Michigan. So again, I think we're moving towards robotics. We're moving towards the machines taking over, but this is a good thing. So I wanted to highlight that, give some kudos to the Army for some great work that they're doing to help promote the future of our country. So
excellent.
All right, well that's it for this week's episode of 54015, which turned into 54022. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'm Chris Bach at PC Bach on Twitter,
and I'm Jeremy Altman at KillerBGT.
And 540.co at 540.co on Twitter. Follow us, give us a like on Facebook, and also check us out on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where we have all of the prior 12 episodes of 54015 posted, so you can go back and watch them all and watch the evolution of our program. I'd encourage you to watch 1 and then watch 13 and see the difference. It's stunning.
Excellent. Yes.
Stunning. So I hope everybody has a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 a.m.
See you guys.
Later.
I want it.